on Zoom the day before that, any of the other days would have been
Nope.
prime.
Nope.
But it was
Just
like, no, right
waiting
before
and
the
waiting.
meeting, right before
Yeah.
class. I was like, okay.
We were just talking about how we feel like we did on the test.
You cut out.
Oh, sorry. I said we had just been talking about how we felt like we did on the test or what we thought about the test in general.
Oh, I did awful on the test. I can say that already with confidence. The writing questions are all that's gonna save me.
Oh,
There was too much, and I was traveling during all of last week too, so I was like, oh boy. I should get
Ooh,
up
that
and
makes it
study
rough.
I
my
feel
own.
like I did the best in the essay questions. I feel the most confident there. Yeah. It, it was all right.
we all just need to repeat the phrase C's get degrees. Ready? C's get degrees. Like we're all gonna be fine.
That's how I felt when I took the test. I was like, you know what? As long as you got like above 50%, it'll be fine. You'll
You
figure
can
it out
bounce back
later.
from that. You can bounce back from that. That's fine.
Yeah, just turn in all your other assignments and we'll figure it out at the final. So it'll be fine.
I feel like with these 400 level classes, I feel like some of the information is a little bit more complex, and so it's getting trickier to do it online and not having like professor lecturing and explaining things and talking as you know what I mean, like and being able to answer questions as you're confused.
Yeah,
So then
like
going
I
back to the
think I
study
get it.
guide,
No, so
yes.
like you think you get it, and they ask a question on the test, and you're like, I have no idea what you're referring to, but I swear I went over all of the material.
Oh, read multiple times. Like by the time I was able to like successfully answer all the questions on my study guide, I probably had gone through the reading material 3, 4, 5 times, you know, like just trying to find like different answers of things.
Yeah.
I don't know
And I
if this
still
happened to you, but for me, like in a lot of the in a few of the questions where it had like all of the above, like I would read the different
yeah.
options, and then I would be like, oh, this one sounds good, but that one sounds good too, but this one sounds better, so it must be this one. And then
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it was all of the above. So yeah,
Tarzan.
that got me. That got me.
Oh, yeah. And I also feel like too, I feel like all along, like with all the classes, like some classes you could like do open notes or open book, or you could like retake the test and then keep the higher score. And then all of a sudden, like you get into these 400 level classes, and it's like not only is it closed book, but there's essay questions, and you only get to take it one. I'm just like, I was really enjoying the you know, retake and the I don't know. But oh well. Time to suck it up, I guess.
Time to get all the assignments on time and try to get 100
Yep,
on everything so that I can make up.
yep.
Okay, well, we can get started now. Let's see. So we have everyone here, and everyone has the basic roles, which is good. You know, we got that all set up, all nice. Um, we're gonna first have our preacher offer the opening prayer and share the
Okay.
thought, and then I'll take it from there.
Okay. Our dear kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we bow our heads before thee to give thee thanks for the opportunity we have to study and to learn, to grow our minds and increase our talents. Please help us to have the desire to share this knowledge with other people that we can help improve lives around us and to be a strength and an influence in our communities and in our wards and at work. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so my thought was I was thinking of really the less material that being about design thinking. I thought of the scripture in Doctrine and Covenants 58:26, where it says, "For behold, it is not meet that I should command in all things, for he that is compelled in all things, the same was a slothful and not a wise servant, wherefore he receiveth no reward." And so I guess I was just kind of thinking like, a lot of times, like in the gospel, we highlight inspiration, right? And saying prayers and receiving answers to our prayers. But like, it's up to us, like we still have to solve our own problems and do what we can to solve our own problems. And sometimes that means thinking out of the box and like the effort that we put into solving our own problems, I think, is blessed and rewarded. I think there are very few times in our life where Heavenly Father just answers our prayers miraculously with no effort on our part. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I think there are definitely times when miracles do happen for whatever, lots of different reasons. But so yeah, I think that we have to start training ourselves and our brains to like think through problems and sometimes think out of the box, and definitely include the Lord and ask for inspiration, but to also meet him, it's the best of our ability through our own problem solving and thinking through solutions. And so that is my thought of the night.
That's a good thought. I think that this last conference, there was a talk that was given that said, every job can be a spiritual job, every job, and so we all are doing our own part in a way. And it doesn't have to be necessarily your job has anything to do with it spiritually, but you are in a way building Zion by doing whatever it is you're doing. And you don't need to be spiritually with every single thing. You are doing what's right through learning and failing and all that, which is design thinking.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna go through, our most meaningful takeaways this week. Anyone have one that they want to share?
For me, I personally really enjoy doing the primer document, especially where like we get to the sign or thinking process. It was very insightful for me to like break it down into different steps, and it got me thinking like, wow, whenever like whenever I go through something and then I have to go through it, it's really cool to have this tool to like really see how you come up with solutions and how you manage things. And I really liked it because I was able to like do something that I struggle with a little bit, and breaking it down, it was really really cool to do, and it just goes to show how we use it in our everyday basis. We just sometimes don't take a sit and really understand, oh, what is it that I'm doing? But all of this terminology and all of everything that we're learning, we see it like in a day-to-day basis. We may not exactly know what it is, but learning about it and by name and term, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to.
I'll share. I can share mine. So actually, this didn't come like straight from the material, but I had this thought while reading it, and it was something that I had heard before. But it's the idea that like group IQ is higher when everyone has a voice, but if like one person, or like it mentioned in the study material, like if the leader dominates the conversation, then the group IQ goes down. And I don't know if it's because I tend to kind of be a slightly bossy know-it-all sometimes. Like that's just kind of that's my default mode that I have to work really hard to not settle into. And so I always feel like I felt like that like line, or that idea of like the moment the person in charge says what they think should be done, then everybody else takes that cue, right? Now they've kind of labeled what is the good idea or what is the bad idea. and it just like shuts down creative thinking, or if like one person dominates the conversation, then you only have that one person's IQ, leading the group, which, we talked about like with diversity, right? Like everyone has different like life experiences and ideas, and the group benefits from hearing all of those, and then the group IQ goes up. So that was my idea.
The part for me that I focused on a lot was they had the quote that it's not failure we celebrate, though we have to be comfortable it's learning that comes from failure and learning from trying something out, even if it didn't work expected. But in some ways, that learning that can come out of it was more valuable than the success that might have been had. And so I enjoyed that specifically because I think more often than not, we tend to label failure as something like, oh, that's really negative, really bad, really awful. But the reality is, the more we fail, the more we learn, and then the better we become as a result. And so it's really cool to just hear someone else's take and perspective on how that became a part of the design process. So they're like, no, failure is part of it. Embrace it. Have fun with it.
Like, I can do that. I can fail. I'm real good at that.
It's my one talent in life.
As long as you learn from it, then that's a great talent. That's what we learned, right?
Yep.
One of the things that was a really good nugget that I loved was in the ideate step, where you're coming up with a bunch of ideas for a solution. I like the fact that you are like, that's your goal. You're supposed to have like 100 different ideas for one problem. And I tend to like think of the first solution and I'm like, it has to be the perfect solution, or else there's no point in moving on. I have to think of the one that solves all the problems, or I have to think of the one that addresses all the concerns. No, think of just a bunch of solutions and then mix and match, and then that just really can keep the creative juices flowing instead of hitting that huge roadblock of trying to find the perfect thing or that perfect thing that fits. I think just all the time we're just like, okay, what's the perfect solution to solve this problem? It's like there can be like 100 different solutions that you just have to mix and match to find that perfect one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about our problems, the wicked problem. So I'll describe what kind of a wicked problem is, and then I'll go into the question. So a wicked problem is one that it's a problem that is linked to other problems. So like if you start trying to solve that problem, you start running into the other problems that are very closely connected to it. So it makes me think of like a spider web. Like you start messing with one point of it, it's connected at so many other points that you're just like pulling all of it. It's just it's like a mess. And so the question is, share your micro plan that uses design thinking to address the wicked problem of more fully involving children with disabilities in activities loved by them and their peers. Explore how you might combine your plans to address this challenging problem. We can go about this with the ideate mindset, where we'll just throw out a bunch of little ideas and then none of them have to be perfect right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was thinking that wouldn't it be kind of cool if there was like an app that families who had children who were disabled could pair up with families with children who are not disabled to become like family buddies, right? Where they go and they do activities together so that kids with the supervision of families and parents could, spend time, and then the disabled child wouldn't feel like as cut off from normal activities with peers. That was my idea. almost like a dating app, but like more like a friendship app for families. I don't know.
That sounds
That was my
adorable.
thought.
I love it.
There are no bad ideas when we ideate, right?
Right.
For me personally, I would work on implementing different ways of communication. So if a child with special needs, let's say, does not feel comfortable speaking or cannot communicate the same way as their peers, this is something that I actually just did last week with one of my clients. He cannot communicate verbally. He can talk, but it's extremely uncomfortable for him. On top of autism, he has social anxiety, so it's incredibly hard. So we came up with 3 chips. One is green, one is yellow, and the other one is red. So in class, instead of him having to face the teacher and say, hey, I need to walk away, if it's something that, like, let's say he just needs to get out, go to the bathroom for a second and then come back, he'll put the green chip on the table so the teacher will know, okay, he'll come back. If it's yellow, then it means that, hey, I'm gonna go into a break room. I need to call my mom because I need to talk to her to feel better. And if it's red, it just means I'm going to the break room. Do not communicate with me. Do not talk to me. I don't feel like speaking. Just have my mom pick me up. Different ways of communication for kids to feel integrated without having to, to feel extremely uncomfortable to a point where they recess rather than progress.
That's an awesome idea.
For mine, I focus more on finding common activities and connecting people that way. Like I know that, for example, in the Black community, they have a huge sports network, right? And finding ways to take things like that and apply it where they have, okay, if we're gonna go play this sport, then if it's a disability, depending on what your disability is, we'll modify the sport how necessary. And then you throw in, okay, if you need a buddy to do this, then we're going to make sure that we have people without disabilities in here as well that are mixing and understand, hey, this is friendly competition. Make sure that whoever your buddy is on your team is having a good time. And also just finding ways that kind of help them do common activities that they both love. That way it's not just focused on, oh, we have to communicate, but instead we can be like, oh, let's have fun playing this game. And as a result, friendships will form.
That's really cool too.
I like the commonality of being able to go to what is comfortable for these children with disabilities so that they feel comfortable and being able to progress them further in a fun way. And I feel like that's kind of like the common thing we're all kind of talking about, being able to make sure that there is just that connection and friendship with whatever level that those people are at. And that is just awesome. And when my kind of idea is being able to, I feel like there are so many different activities and jobs that are needing help or people. And I feel like we have these wonderful uh, little angels, these disabled people that are just wanting to be so helpful, and they're just so awesome. And being able to find something that they can do to be able to help maybe a cause or a group would just be able to make that group just shine just so much more, because they are that, that little bit of diversity that can help it shine, and they are something that can make it, you know, a group or organization be just so much better in a way. And I think we kind of overlook that in a way. And so on this note, there's a video that was in the learning, and the video was the turning point video and it had the sparkle effect. You might think of it like that, where it talked about the cheerleading. Yeah, the video is actually called The Sparkle Effect, and it's from the show The Turning Point. That's what it is. And it talked about with the special needs being able to do the cheerleading at their different high schools and different things like that. So the question is just discuss how they were able to like address the wicked problem of special needs and activities in that video and how effective it was.
I'm gonna start with moment of honesty. I have no idea what video they're talking about, and I'm sure I watched it, but I have no memory of it.
It wasn't
So-
a very big link, I'll be honest, on the learning. It was like a very small link with like no other mentions except for having the link in it.
So maybe I missed it entirely. I don't know. I don't
I'm on
remember the video, so
Yeah, I'm on the same boat as Jennifer. I'm trying to look at my notes and I cannot find anything.
So just so y'all know where it's at, on the week 5 study part 2, so it's on the second page. If you're scrolling all the way down after the TED Talk, which is like I think most of the way down, and then there's another video of impact child poverty, which is like with the whiteboard, and below that there's a little section called view, and there's a BYU Turning Point Sparkle Effect thing right before the conclusion, and it's literally just the link with like no other additional words by it. So that's where it's
It
located.
didn't work for
and
me.
it's
I kept
located. Huh?
I kept hitting play and it like wouldn't start. Like I was never able to view it because I don't know if it was my computer. I don't know if it was the link.
If you
Fair,
watch
fair.
the movie, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about it, and then we can give your insights.
Okay, so so it's from the show Turning Point, which does a bunch of different, like, it's from BYU TV, and they have a lot of different shows where they go and they do good things and like they try to help people, different things like that. And so this talks about this specific group that they travel and they help these teenagers, kids with disability, be able to join different like cheerleading groups in their high school, and just going through and helping these students accomplish their dreams and what they want to do while still like furthering the school, because it is something that it brightens a lot of the other students' day to be able to know that they have these students that are helping and different things like that. I'm not giving it too much justice. It was way early this week when I watched the video, but it was just a lot of talking about the program of having this disabled students be able to participate in a school activity with the regular students so that they feel involved, that they feel wanted, that they feel loved, and they're able to, cheer, because I feel like they are the ones that can be able to be the best cheerleaders at this point. They can provide that joy, and they're able to do that, and it gives them access to that. So that's kind of like the boiled down essence of it, if that makes sense. And so how can we, I don't know, any ideas off of that with our original ideas off of the wicked problem?
It sounded like giving kids like opportunities to find roles, things that they can do so that they feel a part of it that's appropriate for their issues and struggles. so it sounds like a real community effort, right? Like if you can work with school, children or like older teens with disabilities, just things that like give the message like we want you in our community. Like we're going to find ways to help you fit. Like we'll change because we know that you necessarily can't. Like there's a lot that these kids can do to change their disability, if much at all, other than maybe some behavioral, depending on the disability. But just like the community coming together and showing that like we're willing to change some things so that you can be a part of us instead of feeling ostracized.
I also think that's something really good because I feel like as a society we have this concept, right, with special needs kids. We have to help them. We have to include them. We have to make sure that that we tell them, oh, you're part of us. But I I also believe that a lot of it's okay. I have to be part of their world too, you know? All of us have to do an effort to be part of them as well. So understand their needs and understand that they're human just like us. They just need a little extra support and some accommodations. So in that case, in that scenario, I would also invite people, that don't have special needs and educate them about how they work, how they think, what they need, and invite them to also be part of their world. And that way you can really make a connection. Not only do the special need kids feel okay, I can be part of that community, but they also feel accepted by the other kids because, oh wow, they're doing things that are comfortable for me, you know? So yeah.
I like those notes. Those are really good. Being able to make them feel like they're actually part of the community, because I feel like in the past with our last week's study talking about the last 2 week study, talking about the history of the different communities and the non-acceptance, and then them being able to be accepted nowadays. And I feel like that's an awesome push. And I think it's really interesting to be able to hear, with people that actually work with people that are disabled, that they are just like us, right? And they just needed just a little bit more resources and help but they're just as wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to we can go on to the different questions and concepts of the different design thinking. Um, let's see. I'm trying to think of which one I think would be one of the better ones. Does anyone have one that they thought was awesome, or one of the primer questions that we want to talk about? Or I'll choose one myself.
I focused on ones that were on like going to be essays for the next test.
Fair.
Like just compound my study time with this. Although I didn't tackle B because I didn't really understand what nature play was. Was that something else I missed in the reading material?
I was
I didn't
confused
do
by
that
that.
one.
It wasn't in the material, but I'm assuming that from the fact that it talks about afterwards, they're like, oh, we're spending too much time indoors and tightly, or if we're outside, it's like we're playing soccer or something that has like defined rules that nature plays. Like you're like, play outside, don't die.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the lawless 80s and 90s of just like
Yeah.
go ahead and be outside and be on your own. Oh, you're what, only 9 or 10? That's okay. Yeah. it was a lot less time. I really hope that that's not on the test version that I get, because that's like, given the design thinking steps or processes you've identified above, and also the governing principles and values of design thinking. Good grief, how could you use design thinking to promote nature play? Like, I might just take the point hit on the test and just not. That's a lot. So I answered. Sorry.
I was just gonna give my answer. You can give yours first. I'll tell mine after.
Which one did you answer?
I was gonna say just for B, I was gonna say what can be able to promote that being outdoor and different things like that. I was thinking just being able to let the kids come up with their idea of games and being able to let them creatively come up with games so that they, I don't know, just being able to do that promotes so much creativity in the child, and being able to support that by playing that with them, makes them feel like they can be creative and they can have that outlet, which I think a lot of times creativity, I mean, with the design thinking too, and the different videos on design, talking about how some people just feel like they get shot down with their creativity, but being able to let them be creative and be able to support whatever game that they want to play, I feel like is a huge step for them emotionally, and making them feel like they can be creative, and that is something that is a good resource for them. And if they fail, like it's not really a fun game, that's okay. That's part of the learning process too,
And I like that you're highlighting the idea that they'll be the ones, doing the bulk of the creative thinking, like tying it into the lesson material about, taking ownership and making it, there so that they're more invested, and then the end product looks more like them and their needs and their desires than the adults in charge.
I like the idea of going through these with, if like there was one that we were confused on one of the questions. So if there happens to be another one of these that y'all are confused on the question, let's just go through it so that we can add it to our notes so we can get the question right for the quiz.
Okay. So I guess, okay, if we go down to G, how does materializing or making an idea tangible improve communication and opportunities for feedback? And then the second question is, can you materialize a program? I guess I don't really understand that question. Can you materialize a program? Do you guys have any idea what they're asking?
If I had to reword the question, oh, sorry, Kobe, you can go.
No, you go ahead. I've been talking the whole time. You go ahead.
No, I would say if I had to reword the question, I'd almost say it was like, so you can make a product to be like, here, test my product. But how do I do that with a program? How do I say, here, test it? Is it okay? Any thoughts, any feedback? That's kind of in my brain when it asks that, that's what I think it's saying.
So when they're saying, can you test a program, like, would you answer no or yes to that question?
I'd answer yes. The worst you can, I work in a public library, and all the time we're like, here, let's try out this program, see what happens. The worst that happens is nobody shows up. So what? We tried. And sometimes you're like, oh, we didn't get the word out well enough on this, so you try it on a different platform. You're like, oh, okay, this wasn't a great like the patrons wanted this just to view it. They didn't want to come in person, so we'll just change this to an online platform. Oh, they want to be in person. And so we're constantly like, oh, that didn't go as well as we thought. Cool. Should we change? And it's like, some of them are programs that are long-term, some are short-term programs. And so I feel like you can test anything as long as you're comfortable with the idea of failure.
Okay, that makes it easier to understand.
I like that answer a lot because that makes sense. As you're making a program, kind of just putting it out there, and that is the like prototype and testing of it, and then that's like the actual making the physical form of the idea, not necessarily like building a model, but you're actually like doing it and just trying it out.
Yeah, I know a couple weeks ago we had, for the month of September, we tried like a huge STEM program. And I was like, nobody's gonna do it. So I only prepped for like 200 people. We had like 400 people every week for it. And I was like,
Oh,
wow,
wow.
it was successful. So it was something that I was like, huh. So then I have to go back to drawing where I'm like, well, clearly we can't do it planning for 200 people. So what's a better way? And it was interesting because it was like, we just tried to see what could happen. And it gave me a better idea to be able to test and plan for a longer term program.
That's awesome.
It was terrifying, if I'm being honest.
What was that thing for the lesson material that like if you embrace the idea that things don't have to be perfect, then you're gonna like push the boundaries of your comfort levels and just keep pushing them and keep pushing it, right? So like you get more and more skilled and more, comfortable with, trying new things, trying harder things, trying bigger things.
Yep.
I mean, it's awesome.
Yes. Yes.
I'm trying to think that if there are any other questions that I didn't understand from here. I think the other ones are we've kind of talked about quite a bit, about Dorka really did a good job explaining about solutions arising from you know from the people who want the solution, talking about her experience with autistic children.
I feel like one of the big nuggets of this week is being able to ask this question. So when it comes to design thinking, like I have an idea in my head that it's kind of like you are really testing and retesting and coming up with ideas, and you're just like, it feels like a giant story. I'm not sorry, a brainstorming session where you're just changing, adapting, learning, growing type of thing. But I feel like a lot of the times when a problem comes to me and I feel like I try my problem and it doesn't work. I feel like it's hard. I'm not necessarily in that design thinking yet. So what are some ways that y'all have been able to maybe get into that design thinking mindset?
Hmm.
I struggle with anxiety, and when I was going to therapy for that because it got to a point where it was unbearable, I learned a lot of techniques that I think matched a lot with this topic. One of them was that you have to focus one day at a time, and that was like my big takeaway. So now when I wake up, it's kind of like a robot. I go, okay, today I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna tackle this, I have to do that. I put everything on my calendar and I go exactly as I put it. If it's not in my calendar, it's probably not that important, so it can wait. So whatever is on my calendar, I go through it. And design thinking reminds me a lot of that. You tackle things the best way that they work for you, and if something doesn't work, there are different tools that you can use. Like the human rule, I really like it because it focuses on how it's going to affect people and in the benefit of people. And I feel like for me personally, with the type of job that I do, that is a tool that I use all the time. I always do whatever is in the benefit of my clients. So at the end of the day, whatever decision, whatever programs, whatever anything I need to come up with, as long as it's in their benefit, and with Heavenly Father's help, of course, it always works well in the end. So it's really cool to see all the different tools that you have. That it's not just one thing. Something doesn't work, then you can try another and another, and then you're gonna build yourself up that way.
I like that. A lot of times I feel like when you're looking at a problem, you want to be able to solve it with your first idea, but sometimes you do need to take it that one little step by one little step. And then those little steps add up that can be able to help you know that progress is made, and you don't have to risk it all on one solution that ends up failing. It's just a bunch of, okay, these are the little steps that are needed. These is the immediate things that I need to do. And then when those are accomplished, then you did accomplish something. You are making progress,
Yeah, I think I struggle with very linear thinking. Like I think in some ways, like before I learned about design thinking, I would have said this is a strength of mine, where like if someone's like, hey, we need a solution to something or whatever, like I can come up with something, and then I can think of like the logistical problems they're going to deal with, and then I can think of the solutions for those logistical problems, and like I kind of like do this, and I don't do a lot of branching out. Like I get focused on like, hey, this is the idea I came up with. I have now problem solved every aspect of it that I can think of. And then it becomes a little bit like of a control thing, where then if someone's like, oh, hey, what if we do this? And I'm like, no, I've already thought. I've already come up with a plan. Like, so I think I would really struggle with ideation and design thinking of like just throwing ideas out there and not evaluating each idea as good or bad. Like stop the flow chart in my brain of like, like let's not even waste our time with that idea because I can think of 5 things wrong with it with no solution. I don't know. So I actually think this is something when I put this into practice, I think I actually would really struggle with for a lot of reasons. But yeah.
I'd say for me, I've had to learn more often than not that failure is just a stepping stone, right? And so when I'm trying to get into the design thinking phase, I have to constantly say, like, so what if we fail? We moved forward. Let's just move from there. And just looking at failure is like, yeah, you know what? It's probably going to happen, and that's okay. And trying to like put myself in that mindset, because once I'm comfortable with failure, then to be honest, design thinking is easy because you're just like, okay, let's start every idea we've got, good, bad, doesn't matter. Who cares? You throw it out there, and it's the matter of moving past the obstacle failure. Because for me, failure is that thing you're like, no, I don't want to fail. I don't want anyone else to see I fail, and I can't fail. Whereas the reality is, we all fail. We all fail all the time. Someone else fails, and we're like, oh yeah, that fits. Me too, honestly.
But
And
see, I feel like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. Go for it.
I feel like even like listening to you say that, it gets me like anxious because I'm like, but there's a more efficient way of doing this. Like let's like design thinking, like throwing ideas out there, talking about like I'm like, that's so inefficient. Like, no, let's stick to the plan, come up with an idea, see it through. Like we don't have to, is there really time to fail? Like I understand you learn from failing, but like this problem needs to be solved now. And if we're spending all this time on ideas that we could have weeded out from the beginning as not viable, we wouldn't spend the time failing on those activities. Like just not efficient. It's not. So yeah. I guess clearly this is a therapy session I didn't know I needed. So, sorry guys.
It is for everyone.
So that's all for me tonight. Sorry.
Okay, well, the last thing
I'm
is
getting
to
flashbacks. I'm kidding.
Sorry, Darka. Oh man, I apologize.
oh, you're fine.
I'm kidding.
The last thing is opportunity to share any resource, community resources or information
Me.
that I think the researcher provides.
Yes.
So I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Yes, I'm the networker this week. So on the discussion board, I already put the link so you guys can click it if you want more information about it. So this, since we were speaking about autism and we were speaking about special needs, this organization I hold very dear to my heart. It's called Autism Speaks, and they are wonderful. They do so much for the autistic community. Their vision is to work for a world where all people with autism can reach their full potential. And their saying is, together we stand for a world of difference, together we will succeed. They work with the government, they work with local communities like all over the US. They do wonderful things for kiddos and their parents as well. I've seen them really speak up for parents who are part of minorities and they don't know what services are for their kids out there. And I've seen them fight really hard for kids who are not getting the services that they need, like therapy and such. So yes, they do wonderful things. They advocate, they support, and they do research. It's really amazing. So if you guys want to look into that, I left the link there.
Thank you, Darka.
I'm happy to hear the results of one of those foundations. That's really awesome that they really speak up and fight. Well, if anyone else has any more ideas, thoughts, things like that, I am done with all the questions, but if y'all have anything else you want to say, go ahead. Okay, I think we're doing pretty good then. Yeah.